This is a true story. And it shows why you don't mess with God. It's not about divine punishment. It's not about sudden tragedy. It's not about lightning striking from the sky or visible punishments. This is a story about pride. About that kind of silent pride, disguised as self-confidence. The kind that makes us believe we are greater than we really are. The kind that, little by little, separates us from everything and everyone, including ourselves. He was always admired. From a young age, people noticed something about him. Above average intelligence. Confidence when speaking. An impressive ability to solve problems that left others paralyzed. In school, he was the student who understood everything the fastest. In college, the one who stood out without much apparent effort. At work, the employee who rose quickly, who received praise, who was consulted when important decisions needed to be made. He built a solid career. He earned respect. He has accumulated achievements that many only dream of achieving. And with each achievement, something grew inside him. It wasn't malice. It wasn't a desire to hurt anyone. It was simply the certainty that he was in control. That his hands were steady. That his mind was sufficient. That, in the end, he needed nothing but himself. People used to listen to what he said. In meetings, his opinions were expected. In conversations, his words carried weight. When he spoke, there was a respectful silence around him. And he liked that. He liked the feeling of being heard. Of being considered. Of being seen as someone who knew what he was doing. Over time, this feeling transformed into something deeper. A need. A need to constantly prove that he was right. That he was capable. That he didn't depend on anything or anyone. He wasn't an atheist in the classical sense. He didn't deny God's existence with anger or revolt. He didn't discuss theology. He didn't debate with believers trying to destroy their beliefs. In fact, he said he respected those who believed. He said this sincerely, or at least he thought he did. But there was always a second part to that sentence. Always. I respect those who believe, but I never needed it. Or else. Everyone has their own faith, but I got this far on my own. And the most common. If God exists, it never made a difference in my life. These words weren't said aggressively. They were said calmly. With the same confidence he used to talk about any other subject. But there was something behind them. Something he didn't realize, but that the people around him felt. It was pride. Not the obvious, noisy, arrogant pride. But the subtle pride. The kind that hides behind polite phrases. The kind that uses the word respect while silently diminishing what it claims to respect. When someone told him how faith had helped them through a difficult time, he listened. But mentally he was already formulating a response. Interesting, but I've been through tough times too, and I solved them with my own strength. When someone thanked God for an achievement, he smiled. But he thought. You worked hard. It was you. You don't need to attribute this to anyone else. He didn't say these things out loud. But he thought them. And thoughts, when repeated long enough, become words. And words eventually become actions. It was at a dinner party. Nothing extraordinary. Just friends gathered, light conversation, laughter. Until someone mentioned God. I don't remember the exact context. Maybe someone thanked God for the food. Maybe they mentioned a prayer. It doesn't matter. What matters is that the conversation naturally slid to the topic of faith. And he, as always, had an opinion. It started gently. Diplomatically. He said he respected all beliefs. That he thought it was important for people to have something to lean on. But then came the turning point. That phrase that always came up. But this time, with more emphasis. Look. I respect those who believe. Truly. But let's be honest. I got to where I am completely alone. I never asked for divine help. I never felt any presence. And, honestly. He paused. He looked around the table. And finished. If God really exists, He hasn't made any difference in my life. The silence was immediate. It wasn't a comfortable silence. It wasn't agreed. It was that kind of heavy silence that arises when someone says something that shouldn't have been said. But he didn't realize it. Or he did it and didn't care. After all, he was just being honest. Just expressing his truth. At least that's what he thought. The conversation moved on to other topics. No one confronted anyone. No one argued. But something lingered in the air. And, inside him, something else lingered too. A strange feeling. Not exactly guilt. But, discomfort. He mentally shook his head and ignored it. Nothing happened. Absolutely nothing. No lightning struck. No sudden tragedy. No sudden illness. No financial loss. Life went on exactly as before. Work. Commitments. Success. Recognition. And that reinforced his certainty. See? Nothing changed. Because there's nothing to change. He even laughed to himself a few times, remembering the worried expressions of some friends at that dinner. As if God would care what any human being says or doesn't say. As if there were any consequences for words. But, little by little, something began to change. Not on the outside. On the inside. At first, it was imperceptible. Just a slight discomfort. A nameless restlessness. He was busy, so he ignored it. But the feeling persisted. It grew. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't fear. It wasn't regret. It was emptiness. A strange emptiness that appeared at the most unexpected moments. In the middle of an important meeting, when everyone agreed with him. During a professional achievement that should have brought him joy. At night, before sleeping, when the silence of the house became too loud. Even surrounded by people, he felt alone. Even busy, he felt purposeless. Even successful, he felt small. The weeks turned into months. And the emptiness grew. He tried to fill this void the way he always filled any discomfort, with work. He accepted more projects. He took on more responsibilities. He kept himself constantly busy. But it didn't work. For the first time in his life, achievements brought no satisfaction. He would receive praise and feel nothing. He would finish an important project and think, so what? People continued to respect him, admire him, consult him. But his own words began to sound empty to himself. He spoke with the same firmness as always. But internally, he felt he was just repeating memorized phrases. Like an actor who has performed the same play 1,000 times and forgotten what the words really mean. He began to avoid deep conversations. He preferred superficial, safe topics that didn't require reflection. Because reflection brought discomfort. And discomfort brought questions. Questions he didn't want to answer. It was an ordinary night. Friday. End of another work week. He arrived home tired, as always. He prepared something simple for dinner. He sat on the sofa. He turned on the television. But he couldn't pay attention. He turned off the TV. Silence. That silence that used to be relaxing, but now was deafening. He picked up his cell phone. Scrolled through social media without really seeing anything. He put the phone aside. And stayed there. Alone with himself. For the first time in a long time, without distractions. And it was at that moment that the phrase returned. That phrase he had said months ago, with such conviction. If God exists, it never made a difference in my life. But this time, it sounded different. It didn't sound strong. It didn't sound true. It sounded empty. He found himself thinking. Did I really get this far alone? And for the first time, honestly, he didn't know the answer. He thought about the opportunities he had. The right people who appeared at the right times. The health he always had. The doors that opened when others closed. Was it really just his own merit? Or had there been something more? He shook his head. No. That's weakness. That's looking for easy explanations. But the doubt remained. And with the doubt came something he hadn't felt in years. Insecurity. In the following days, he couldn't stop thinking. He mentally revisited his entire life. The achievements that had brought him so much pride began to seem smaller. Not because they weren't important. But because he realized he had built his entire identity on them. He was his achievements. He was his success. He was the admiration he received. Take that away from him, and what's left? That question terrified him. Because, for the first time, he didn't have an answer. He began to observe the people around him with different eyes. Those he had always seen as dependent on God. Those who gave thanks, who prayed, who attributed their victories to something greater than themselves. He had always seen them as weak. As people who needed emotional crutches to cope with life. But now he saw something different. He saw peace. A peace he didn't have. He saw purpose. A purpose he didn't feel. He saw connection. A connection he had lost, if he ever had one. And he realized something devastating. That all his self-sufficiency, all his strength, all his conviction, didn't make him strong. They made him alone. Pride is a strange armor. It protects, but it also imprisons. And his armor was beginning to weigh him down. One night, alone again, he did something he never imagined he would do. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't theatrical. He simply stopped. He stopped distracting himself. He stopped running away. He stopped convincing himself that everything was all right. And he remained silent. Not ordinary silence. But that profound silence, where there is nowhere to run. And in that silence, he admitted. He admitted he was tired. He admitted he felt empty. He admitted that, perhaps, he wasn't as self-sufficient as he believed. He didn't say a formal prayer. He didn't know how. He just acknowledged. He acknowledged that there was something bigger than him. Perhaps, just perhaps, he hadn't arrived there completely alone. Perhaps that phrase he uttered with such conviction had been more pride than truth. And with that realization, something broke inside him. Not painfully. But liberatingly. The armor began to crack. The next day, nothing changed externally. Same routine. Same work. Same people. But he was different. He no longer spoke with the same absolute certainty. He no longer diminished the faith of others. He no longer proclaimed his self-sufficiency. He simply stopped. And in place of those proud phrases, something new emerged. Humility. Not false, performative humility. But real humility, which comes from recognizing one's own limitations. He didn't become religious overnight. He didn't start going to church. He didn't become a preacher. But he began to truly respect. To listen without judging. To acknowledge that perhaps he didn't know everything. And, little by little, that emptiness began to diminish. It didn't disappear completely. But it became smaller. More bearable. Because now he wasn't trying to fill it alone anymore. Today, he doesn't talk much about God. But he respects him. Deeply. Because he understood something that can't be learned in books. That challenging God doesn't provoke immediate external punishment. No lightning strikes. No plagues come. But it can generate an internal confrontation. A confrontation that no one sees. A confrontation that no one but you can feel. And this confrontation, sometimes, is deeper than any visible consequence. He learned that some words don't return as punishment. They return as reflection. And reflection, when true, changes more than any punishment could. Pride made him believe he was greater than he was. Humility made him realize he was smaller than he thought. And in that realization, paradoxically, he became greater. Because recognizing limits is not weakness. That's wisdom. You don't mess with God. Not because he will punish you. But because, eventually, you will have to confront yourself. And that confrontation reveals who you really are when you take off your armor. And we don't always like what we see. But it's necessary to see. Because only after seeing can we change. And only after changing can we finally find peace. If you've made it this far, thank you. Thank you for dedicating these minutes of your life to listening to this story. Thank you for opening your heart to reflect on something you may never have thought about before. If this story touched you in any way, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave your comment below telling us what you felt. And if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now and activate the bell. Because every week I bring real stories like this one. Stories that transform. That teach. That make us stop and think. May God bless your life. And never forget this. Some lessons are only learned when you stop to listen. Until the next video.